Hey friends, welcome to the Rhythms for Life podcast, where each week we talk about resilient rhythms that help you take charge of your mental, spiritual, physical, and relational health. This season's conversations come from our best-selling book, The Fight for Us: Overcome What Divides to Build a Marriage That Thrives. So grab your copy, invite your friends, and let's build healthy relationships together. Welcome back. I'm Rebekah.
And I'm Gabe.
And how about last week with Jonathan Pokluda?
I know.
Just went there. I love it. I hope it encouraged you guys.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to our first three episodes now, leading up to today, go back and start this series at the beginning, because Rebekah and I are really trying to walk with you on a journey of what healing looks like in marriage.
Yeah, and last week we focused on how your spouse is not the enemy, right? It's something way outside of that and how to align. And we're real excited about this week. If you tuned in Monday, you heard us talk about the dysfunctional dance.
Yeah, and the fight that we're all in for all kinds of reasons.
Yes. And as we have polled you guys on like, what's your dance? In fact, if you haven't taken the quiz yet on what's your dance, we have found a lot of the results are either intense or they're silent.
I know. Those are two different
living
worlds.
In the extremes. And so if you didn't tune in Monday and you haven't heard yet about the dance, just the summary very quickly is that there's 4 dances and there's a quiz. So if you want to go to RebekahLyons.com/dance, you'll learn very quickly in just a few questions, and you'll get the results sent right to you, and your spouse could take it too. And it'll be interesting to see how you're different or the same. And the 4 dances are silent, intense, avoidant, and anxious.
Yes. So figure that out, because that'll begin a great conversation as you get into reading the book, The Fight for Us. And that's what we're talking about, is a lot of the themes from the book that really help marriages start to find their way back together. We're not saying every marriage is in trouble, but we talk to so many couples who they've gotten used to some patterns that they aren't thrilled with, but they're used to it.
Yeah.
They feel like they found a way to just get along, but it's not flourishing. And our hope is that as we go through this series together, as you read our book together, where we've tried to open up about our own journey and the lessons we've learned from amazing counselors and many different experiences that we've had, our hope is that you get on a track where you're excited headed into this summer about your marriage.
Yeah, and the reason why we have guests coming on, we're so excited about this whole season, but today our guests are Willie and Korie Robertson. And the reason why we had them on is because Gabe and I both tested intense in the dance. And as we got talking to them about their conflict pattern, they're both very intense people.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. And I love the similarity. We talk about a lot of things, whether it's career or partnership, but behind all that is a lot of passion.
Yeah.
And that sometimes comes out in positive as well as negative ways, when your kids are around or when they're not around.
And they're marriage veterans too. They've been married 5 years more than us, right? They're year 33.
Yes.
And everybody's watched their family. They've had to deal with a lot of interesting dynamics in their marriage. I mean, they've invited cameras into their home with their kids. They've had to navigate, which adds a lot of stress. And we've been with them through that. So we've kind of watched how they've tried to manage that, how they've tried to cultivate an incredible, authentic family life, but then invite the world in to see it at different times. And in fact, coming up is their new series where they're basically going to be back on TV,
right?
With Dynasty, the revival. We'll talk a little bit about what that is at the end of our conversation. But I think you're going to really enjoy just hearing from another couple. And that's what Rebekah and I have tried to design with this season, is to think about you sitting there on the couch, or maybe you're in your car, you're driving along, and maybe you just had a fight with your spouse this morning. You're going, I don't know what is happening. I don't know if I can keep doing this. I'm frustrated. And to hear other couples talk about their frustration with each other too, that this is a normal thing that can either be an invitation towards new connection and deeper connection, or it can push you apart. And we're trying to help every couple reimagine what it means to start to use any kind of tension or division to be a beginning point to reset, to renew, to start to find your way back to healing.
And we thought it would be important with these conversations because they are vulnerable, they are honest, they go there. We wanted to put these also videoed, the full episode on YouTube. And so if you just want to go to Rebekah Lyons and subscribe to YouTube there, you get to watch the whole thing. And in fact, I recommend it or encourage you doing that with your spouse. Again, you can hear this in the car, maybe while you're driving around individually, but how much more to watch it together, and learn and just honestly, it'll give you conversation starters even now before the book is in your hands, which it does come out next week.
Yeah. So
super excited.
Here's the deal. In 5 days, The Fight for Us is out. It's available. If you've already pre-ordered it, you're going to get it shipped to you that day. But if you haven't, I want to invite you to pre-order the book now, The Fight for Us. It's available everywhere books are sold. And there's a few things we want to give you right away when you do that. One is you're going to get the first 3 chapters so you can start reading. So you can basically catch up, and then when the book arrives, just get on to chapter 4. The other thing you'll receive is a Fighting for Your Marriage masterclass. So Rebekah and I have taken the time to really boil down some big concepts and to deliver those to you immediately via video so you can actually immediately jump into some of the questions you're having in your own marriage relationship. You're also going to get access to the Emotional Health for Marriages mini course, and that's going to give you over 8 sessions helping you work through how do you feel emotions, what does it mean when your spouse is feeling angry or hurt, and how do you navigate that in your relationship? And then you're also going to get a Growth and Connection toolkit that's going to be a download for you that's going to have even more resources to just begin all of us together growing in our marriage journey. So when you pre-order your book today, you can go and actually redeem all of that at RebekahLyons.com/marriage.
Right. So you're going to learn a lot once that book comes to your front door. But if you are curious about why you fight and what you're feeling behind it, and how to transform this relationship today. I mean, so many people I've talked to just in the last week are feeling a sense of urgency around this topic. I mean, it's hard when you go through marriage a long season and you just feel kind of like helpless. You're like, I need the tools, but I can't get in with a counselor, or we can't find a counselor we can go to together, or childcare, or the finances. These are things to help you right now. So if you're like, I'm hearing this, I've heard it a few times, I do want to know. I want to know why we keep having the same fight. I want to know what am I feeling underneath that fight?
Yeah, and how are we going to get breakthrough? How are we going to not just live like this forever, but actually start to enjoy the marriage in the way you always dreamed of enjoying your marriage? And we're just here to tell you, don't lose hope. We've walked through this journey ourselves. We've been at that place where we're not sure it was going to get better. And now we are at a place where it's better than it's ever been in year 28. And so we want to just encourage you. We are praying for you. We know these conversations aren't always easy. And that's why listening to other couples like you will today with Willie and Korie, we hope, can just be an encouragement that you're not alone. We're all in this journey. We're all navigating 2 people becoming one, even decades into our marriage. And so let's keep that hope alive. Let's pray into it and ask God to just help us reveal any ways we can be a part of the healing that needs to happen. So let's listen in now to Willie and Korie Robertson.
Welcome back. I'm Rebekah.
And I'm Gabe. And we are so glad to have Willie and Korie Robertson with us today.
Woo-woo!
Yeah, they're some of our favorites, longtime friends. Willie and Korie, welcome to Rhythms for Life.
What's
there.
up? You're just saying that because we're on the podcast with you.
It's not
Yeah,
true.
That's
you
the
are
only reason
favorites.
you're saying that.
Aw,
Yeah.
thanks.
You're the first to hear it from us.
We'll take that. We're gonna put that on our resume, like Gabe and
Yeah.
Rebekah's favorites.
Add to your bio for
Right.
sure.
Well, Willie and Korie have been friends over a decade now of just life together. We see each other here and there, but our families have been able to get to know each other, and we've been able to watch their journey and learn a lot from their journey. And as we think about marriage and we think about this idea of fighting for us, I would say one of the great lessons we've learned from you guys, there's many, but one of them is the grace with which the 2 of you sync up. The way the 2 of you have learned how to work together with very different temperaments, personalities, things that you enjoy doing, and you have found a way to connect. And that's one of the things that Rebekah and I believe so much in, is helping couples go from being individuals to partners.
Right. Yeah. So emphasis in the book is all about career and vocational life. And so often as married couples, we think like our partnership kind of ends inside the home. Like, how do we partner as parents? How do we partner with like keeping everything afloat, the calendar, the kids? But you guys have ventured beyond that, and you're living a life that has partnered outside of the home. And you've even modeled that for your kids who are now adults doing similar things. And I just love that so much. I was like, so when we talk about this, we want to talk to Willie and Korie because we know that this was probably something you had to wrestle with from the very beginning. So I would love to just go back to when you met, those early years of marriage. Did you have a vision even then of how you would partner together, whether it's ministry inside or outside the home? How did that begin for you? And then we'll go from there.
Well, when we partnered, we were young, and I gave her a contract and said, "Would you like to create a partnership?" with me in 5th grade at Camp Chioka.
We did meet in 4th and 5th grade, so it started very young for us. But we were married at 18 and 19, so I don't think we really had quite a vision for what our life was going to be at that point. We just, we're going to live on love and kind of figure it out as we went along, and we did. But I think early on, we definitely we went to college together. Willie was not planning on going to college. So as I kind of helped him through college, we kind of realized
that was your first partnership.
What our relationship was going to be. Yes. Yeah.
I was already owing favors right off the bat because of Korie helping me through college. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think for people like us who get married really young probably for everybody, I'm sure is like you've got to begin the separation of kind of the partnership you have with your parents and how they parent and how they do their relationship. And so I think Korie and I were pretty keen on that early on. Like, okay, these are things we like and these are things we dislike from what we've seen modeled. And what are we going to be like, to not just fall into the same roles that you saw growing up. And so I think that was important for us because we were from two totally different, both Christian, both full of faith, on a high level, but very different marriages and how they partner, I would say, with our parents.
Yeah, I think early on, I was thinking about that too, because you mentioned different personalities, and we came from very different backgrounds in a lot of ways. But I do think that we both came in with an openness to figure out what worked for us. And we kind of laid aside pretty quickly, oh, this is what a husband's supposed to do, or this is what a wife's supposed to do. And we were like, okay, what are your strengths? What are my strengths? And how can we both encourage one another in those strengths and also live in them and bring that to the table of a relationship rather than letting that pull us apart where expectations of oh, you're supposed to do this or you're supposed to do this because this is how my mom did it or my dad did it. But okay, you're good at that, so you do that. I'm good at that, this, so I'll do this.
Right. And I'm shocked you don't do this. Or there was definitely some of that. And Korie and I were unique, I think, even in the space we're in now, it's unique that we all work together. But I worked for her parents for 10 years in the nonprofit world. And then we started running our family business. So she's worked with my parents for the last couple of decades. And so we've both been in these partnerships in vocation and in life, and everything is just mixed up and jumbled up. And so that creates challenges, but we also have learned even more to go even deeper in who we are and what we are and how we're going to partner and live our life. And then our kids come along, and now they have their own spouses, most of them, and their own children. And so, it's unique how we've done that as well.
I'm curious for young married couples who are hearing this and the way that you had that conversation early. What spurred that? Just curious, what did you notice right off the bat? Willie's great at this, Korie's great at this. Give us some practical examples of some of those things that were maybe countercultural in your moment, but you just you knew it and you just started to recognize it and name it.
I would say I'm more about the details. So balancing the checkbook, doing those types of things, where in my house, my dad did all of that, all the money stuff, handled everything. Literally, my mom would, this was back in the days of the checks with the, with the little thing.
Register.
Yeah, exactly. She would hand them to dad at the end of the day, whatever. And he would record it all. And it wasn't dad was in charge of the money in that way, he gave her a budget or whatever, but in the way that he just handled all of it. He opened all the mail, he did all of that kind of stuff. And in their family, his mom did that. Mm-hmm. But I realized okay, I'm better at it. That's just my strength. I'm more conscientious, I guess, as far as that kind of stuff. So I started doing that really early on. Cooking, for sure. I decided I was going to,
Cooking
really
not,
did try. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I really did try at the beginning because his mom was a really good cook. And so I was well, I'll get all the recipes and try. And I was just really bad at it. And I just did not enjoy it, was not good at it. And so Willie started taking on more of the cooking because he loves it and is good at it. And now he does all of the cooking. If he's out of town, my kids are worried about me. They're like, what are you eating, Mom? Are you surviving? They invite me over to their house now. I'm really thankful for that because I'm so spoiled because Willie does all of that.
Right.
Yeah, I told my mom, I said, Corey's not that good at cooking. And she said, I told you that's what happens when you marry a skinny girl. And so it was almost like she knew what was going to happen. And so what I would tell, especially young people, I think a lot of young people today, they try to figure it all out. And I would certainly say Korie and I, we're not trying to figure everything out. Like, it wasn't like we were like, okay, this is what it's going to be like and how it's going to be. There was a certain spirit of wonder and hope and just finding it as we went along. I mean, certainly 33 years ago, we had no clue, even 15 years ago, we had no clue where we would be in life with our, television and vocation and all these things. And so, I do think, I think kids they want to have it all figured out. They want to have it all planned. They want to have the age. This is what's going to happen. This is, we're going to basically plan our whole life out year by year, decade by decade. And so, and I think there can be some traps in that by trying to have all the answers because you just don't, And so I think, like with us, you guys and us, we, as we see young people, we know like you can just smile going, you'll figure this out. You're 25 and you think you have it figured out, or you think, oh, this is how it's all going to work. And you're like, yep, okay, And so I think that's important, and for us to be able to find that, I think we had some base things, and also things change. People change. Like Korie is, she's different now than she was then. She's way more confident. She like certain things that she gathered along the way. I can just see her different. I was like, wow, I never would have thought she would be doing that, or you'd be on a stage even talking. I just when we first got married, I was like, Korie would never do that. She's never gonna.
I hated that. Whenever my senior year, like I had to speak at our my graduation, and
why did you have to speak? Why would they let you speak?
I didn't want to say it because you're going to be.
Because she helped you through college, Willie.
Yeah.
It's probably related to
that. I made good grades, which made me at graduation.
If you're at the top one or two, they let you speak at your graduation.
And I was mortified. I was terrified. It was awful. And you do things you don't expect about your life that you grow into, that God puts you in positions that you're like, okay, God, I'm here, so I got to figure out how to do it, So I think that is an important point. It's just like let each other change and evolve. And it's even like as simple as like the cooking. I would say, I'm like, yes, you look at like their kids are like, you look at Dad now and he cooks all the meals and he does the dishes and all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't always that way. He was really busy at different times of our life that he didn't. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I kept y'all alive. Like he makes fun of me because I never go to the grocery store anymore. I was like, yeah, but I went to the grocery store for about 20 years of our marriage. And I did all of that because you were doing other things at that time, And so it's like, yes, there is an evolution. And I think whenever you're young and you get married, you have all these expectations that it needs to be right now. It's like, that might happen in your marriage, but it might be over time. You shouldn't, don't put it all of here's the timeline of when this has to happen and this has to happen and this has to happen.
Yeah, it seems like the key is humility. It's looking at each other in a way that says, how can I honor during this season my person? How do I look at their gifts and lift them up and encourage them and support them when they have different opportunities? And Rebekah and I have gone through that season. We called it the year of Rebekah, which was this year in 2012, where she was discovering her gift of writing and her story to be told. And I remember stepping back from some of my responsibilities, my travel, doing more time with the dishes, the kids, so she could just have a little bit more space than she'd ever had in our marriage, raising these little children to even think about things. And I think for a lot of younger couples, that's hard to imagine, especially growing up in Christian homes where the traditional idea, and it's changing, but it used to be, hey, the wife's there to just support the husband as he goes out and does the thing he's called to. But so many in this next generation are understanding, look, each of us have unique and distinct assignments. And perhaps God's asking, the husband to come around and look at their wife in a way to say, what is the gift that she has that I don't have, that he's assigned her to, and how do I support her? So, Willie, I'm curious, as you speak to husbands right now, men who maybe grew up in environments where it was all about them, and when they got married, they thought it was supposed to continue to be all about them. How would you encourage them to maybe start to get a little bit of a different perspective on the gift that they have in their wife and starting to view their wife as a person that also has an incredible assignment?
Yeah, I think they've got to, they have to change that thinking. I think that's important. It's not the most grandiose idea, but it's just like sometimes we just have to stop thinking like that and thinking that, the world revolves around us. And we certainly try to teach our kids that. We try to, teach people at work that, like, this is not all about you. And, because especially how a lot of kids are raised today, it is all about them. And it's obvious, you can go in their households and look, and everything's centered around a 2-year-old or a 10-year-old or 15-year-old. And so it's not that at all. And some of the lessons we have to learn is when we literally crash the car, and you learn a great lesson and hopefully you survive. But that's where you really learn the lesson. You're like, wow, and then you realize kind of the faulty in your thinking. I think if you can see the power of two is way better than the power of one, that'll start unlocking, I feel like, some of the thinking of, especially for some men, is to be like, hey man, this is a great helper, and not in the lesser sense at all. It's just I have someone else to help. I think when you're in business, you start figuring that out. Hopefully, if you're going to be successful, you realize, oh, I got to have this person. This person helps in the business, and then, oh wow, this person can do this. And I think it's the most valuable in marriage is when you realize both of us together, certainly for parenting. I mean, think about all of it. It's just all those things when you have someone with you, and then you have to figure out how you're gonna, how you can build that person up, to be the maximum helper for themselves, and then also for you and for your marriage. I think that's so important, is to realize that. And so, yeah, those are lessons I had to learn early on, where I felt like, man, because I think early on in marriage, I was like, I'm going to drive this thing and I'm going to, do all these things. And then you realize, like, I can, or I'm not even good at, half the things or really important things. And again, some lessons you learn from crashing the car, and some you learn just as you pick up, and some you just kind of learn like, man, that was stupid. Why was I so, now I can look back going, why was I so into that, But again, it's part of that thinking of what you think you're supposed to be, and then and then who you are and who you really become, And I think a lot of that's experience, but I think you can speed it up. So my advice to husbands is you can speed that up. And some things you just, it's kind of like the Bible talks about sin. It never talks about working around it. You just have to rid yourself of, you just have to go, like that's got to go, And and there's been moments when Korie and I both have told each other, like, look, this has to, this just has to stop. This is too hard to, and it can be on the most simple things. We have where our kitchen is, and then there's a bathroom right beside the kitchen. It's kind of the main area. And I never realized someone would even think like this. And like, I would leave that door open, and Korie would walk through, and she'd be like, I do not like this. I don't like walking in the morning and seeing a toilet, And to me, I was like, who cares? It's like, why would you ever even? But then it would start the training, and this is it's the training of me thinking, she doesn't like that door open, and I'm going to close that door. The most simple thing, and sometimes the most simple things, you can see those in bigger areas of our life. And so as a husband, I would think that's just one of those little things. When I go out that door, I'm going to close that door because she does not like seeing that toilet right there. Yeah, and I think as husbands and wives, but especially for husbands, we can just start those little things, those little training things where it's like, I'm going to do that. If that helps, because there'll be bigger moments that you'll have to deal with. But if you can, take care of the small stuff, the bigger stuff becomes easier.
I'd love to ask you, Korie, as you guys, it's so true what you're saying about how in every season, those roles continue to progress, evolve, like shift. And it's so fun to even know you now as a friend and what you're doing even a decade ago when the kids were younger. Just watching that progression, I know it's been the same for us. In fact, in every season, while it invites new opportunity, it also invites new challenge, new layers of things you have to work out and work through, because change is good, but it's also hard. And I find that for us, even in this like partnership role, it has shifted as our kids' stages have shifted when they were little, and then like everyone went through puberty, so that had its own season, and then launching, and then now you're grandparents. So I'm wondering how that partnership, like what worked and didn't, in some of those seasons, and share where like you guys became partners, but where there were seasons where the intimacy was lost because like head down, like we're forging ahead in business and we've got that hat on and it's working really well, but is there a cost with you guys relationally? Would you quit on the pillow at night like I would do sometimes? Like, is this going to work? How did you navigate that? And what were some of the challenges and how did you resolve?
Yeah, I think that, one of it, the main thing I think is just to think of it like your life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. There are going to be different seasons of that. And so that reminder of like, oh yeah, this is a time when we're really investing in our kids right now and I can't travel with him as much as I would like to. And so that we lose some of that because it's like, oh, we actually aren't able to be together. We had a time whenever one of our kids was going through some hard things, and we were like, okay, we actually can't both be gone, so one can go and one has to stay home, or one can go, and those things takes a toll, on your marriage, because it is you can't have that date time like you need or that you want, or that fun time together. And so I think remembering like we're in this for the long haul. Like our goal is like to be old people sitting in the rocking chairs together, and we have all these grandkids and great grandkids around that are running around. So that's like what our shared common goal, and that's the vision that we have for our life. And so like this time period, well, it might not look exactly like that, but we know what we're going for, and so we're going to hang in there through this part. So definitely that. And then as far as like work, I would say, there's definitely been times whenever I was driving harder and working longer hours, and Willie was like, okay, stop. We need to stop talking about work. Like there's times whenever he's driving it hard, and I was like, all right, you're gone too much. You're not part of the family life like we need to be. So I think it's like those honest conversations sometimes is like, hey, I'm seeing this and it's not good in our marriage. And so sometimes like I'm saying it very nicely, but whenever we're saying it in the moment, it wasn't that nice. Like, hey, I'm seeing this, it was more like you're this or you're that. But just remembering that end goal and like saying like, hey, here's what we actually really want. Here's our mission that we're on. And so like, this is not serving that mission right now. If you're, with what you're doing or I get it that I'm not serving our mission right now about what I'm doing. So I need to like pull back a little bit or change this or shift that. Or it's like, okay, we know that like, yeah, this is the time, but it's not always going to be this way. And we're going to come back together.
I'm curious, like when you would notice something's off and like, how long would it go? How would it create conflict for a while? Would it be just something like, this is like the practical stuff, because I think the fighting, in fact, we have kind of pulled our audience of like, we have 4 dysfunctional dances that happen when stress hits, and it's like silent, intense, avoidant, and anxious. And currently of the people who are taking this quiz, the intense one is the highest right now. Just maybe like you kind of, you're feeling it, but then all of a sudden it hits a point where you just kind of like, there's confrontation or like this isn't working or something like that. Like
overreaction, fighting, but it's intense. It's like an intense battle, when these kind of conflicts come up. So do you guys get to that? Or if you do get to that, how do you kind of repair?
De-escalate, we've never actually had an intense battle.
No, I would say
this morning.
I can't even picture it, guys.
Our battles used to be a lot more intense, for sure. We definitely had. We were married very young. We had a lot of growing up to do, but it wasn't just young.
It's not just young.
No, it wasn't just young. Like we have had some very intense about it. We are intense.
Passionate
We're
people right
passionate
now.
people. We have like strong opinions.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like decades ago.
No. Like
Yeah,
we have strong opinions.
Maybe this week. I don't
we
know.
can fight. Did we fight this week?
I don't think so.
I mean, Willie's
remember that.
crying.
It's been a
though.
good week.
I know.
He's already sad thinking about it.
It's been a good week.
I don't think we fought this week. So it's like
Because other people have told us that. Like other people that are around us are like,
so
whoa.
that was what was
Right.
really funny. When
Yeah.
during
Like your kids?
funny,
Yeah.
but maybe not funny. But during really when we were like growing Duck Commander and we were working like head to head on a daily basis, some other of our people that worked around us was like, "Whoa, y'all really go at it," and we're like, "We do." Like we almost like didn't even realize it because it was just part of like how we kind of battle out things, like how we talk things through, and so we didn't even realize it sometimes that like, oh, we're intense with like our opinions. We could definitely have those strong opinions. And so I think we dealt with it different ways at different times. But I would say it practically, sometimes it did just take a blow up, just like a full on
Get it out.
blow up, get it out, like, and then come back together, and figure out, okay, how do we come back together in this? And then I think the most thing I think that helped me was trying to treat Willie with respect and him treat me with respect and know that like, okay, the intentions are good. The intentions are good. Even though you see this totally different than I do, the intentions are good. Our goals are the same. All right, how do we like come back to it?
Yeah.
And it's not always easy because, in the moment you're looking at all the bad intentions or all the bad things, but to try to just remind myself, okay, no, like his intentions are good. Our goals are the same. Maybe we need to like just battle this out and come to the end of it. But in the end, we're going to be together, and this is we're in this. We're a team.
Well,
I love the phrase of Emerson, who we both know and love, Eggerichs. But he says, we used to think it was like a moral issue, and we get real intense and passionate about like I'm wrong or I'm right and you're wrong. And he's like, no, it's not right or wrong. It's just different. You know? It's different. Like you could go either path and probably get to where you're trying to go, but you feel so convicted in your perspective of it, which makes that intensity ramp. So I love the fact that you're like, oh, yeah, there's validity, obviously, to both of these. We should probably de-escalate, listen, and understand what is common ground for us. I love that.
I may can answer this question because I've been on the other side of it, so trying to see how she how she deals with this. I'd say when it's unhealthy, it's probably several of those four things you read off, but there will be this silence, and then like I can tell something's off. Well, then I'm trying to figure out what exactly, I can't remember what it is that I've, and again, I think when it's unhealthy, because we've burned days and sometimes weeks on that, of just, and I can tell because she's mad about something. And so I think as we get healthier, if we have to figure it out and have it out, then we have it out. Probably we're going to have it out anyway. So you might as well just go, and lose all the silent treatment and the pushing away that certainly happens throughout the day, throughout the night. I mean, you can just, it's like, and you got to post up, and then I think you don't, and you're protecting your ground, and she's protecting her ground, and then and we definitely have lived like that. It's almost like you go through. A long time of that where it's just like I'm not backing off a bit on this, and and so you almost feel like you're at war, maybe a silent war, the Cold War.
It is a Cold War.
It's kind of what it feels like. It's like we're not on the same page, and so because either we've said or done something offensive to each other, and I think it is love and respect, and generally that's what it is. I'm like, she doesn't respect anything I do, and she's like, he doesn't love me, and so, and that's this, this classic, the battles that you have, and just, when she was saying earlier, I think this is for guys too, because I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but, just because she says something, it doesn't mean that it's right. I think guys sometimes like, well, if she said it, it's right, and that's the way I should be. It doesn't mean it's right. Like you're saying, it's not right or wrong. It's just that's how she's feeling and that's what she's seeing. And so, it's not bad to work hard. I think sometimes guys get confused and they're like, okay, you don't want me to work? Fine, we don't have any money. And then see how you like that, and see how you like when we can't. And so but you tend to go to extremes, right? You're like, I'm trying so hard. We just had a discussion last week that we should go on this vacation. And then so I'm like, well, I better roll it up and let's make some money. Not that that's just a guy's job, but that's my mentality because I'm a CEO and I'm a guy who wants to fix it. If she says something, I want to fix it. Like, okay, fine. Here's the deal. We do this, we do that, and,
right.
And that's part of where we had like with work when we worked together, because when I'm like, hey, we need to stop, because she's so detail oriented. So she wants to talk about details at 10 o'clock at night. I'm not a detail guy. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with I'm like, I like other people to deal with details, but that's where she is with business. And she loves those details and loves to think through this and let's think through this. And, and so you have to find those points where it's like, look, I don't like doing this at night. And she'll tell me, I don't like, the things that I do, some of the things I do, especially with business, whether it's like, hey, let's haul off into this. I just saw something. We're going to buy it. We're going to start this. She's like, whoa,
Yeah.
Right.
So you're more, Willie, are you more the activator? Like you add to the, like you go after stuff and then Korie's like pragmatically trying to, but how could we do this? And
it's a mix.
Or do you both okay.
I wouldn't say I couldn't put us either one in a box. Certain things she'll be like, we're doing it. And I'm like, whoa, and then certain things I'm like, how does she not see this is the most brilliant idea ever? And so our personalities are
we went through
similar.
A little phase.
Like they're on the Enneagram, like she's 7-8, I'm 8-7. So we run into each other constantly, with
More
how
is
we,
more.
which did help us too, by the way, to know kind of how we are and how we think. And so it's according to what the project is,
Yeah.
There
was a little phase where there's a few years that it was a real struggle. I was like, you start a project and I finish it. And it was, I was getting resentful of it because I was like, you're jumping into these things, but then you're on to the next thing within a few weeks. And then I'm left to like finish everything that you just started, And sometimes it's fine. But other times I'm like, I didn't actually want to finish this, but I feel the responsibility and because I'm more conscientious, I'm going to finish it. But you started it. So then we had to have a discussion of like, if you're going to jump into this, you're going to have to see it all the way through, because like I'm tired of finishing everything you started, Or there's times when those discussions have to be had because one starts feeling that way of like, wait a second, like this is not fair to me because you keep jumping into things, but then I feel left like, well, you don't have to finish it. You don't have to finish it. Let it go. And I'm like, but that's not how I'm made. Like I can't just let it go. So then it's like,
well, that's your problem. Corey's
that's your problem.
Corey's problem is
I want to watch this.
Corey's problem is this.
No, tell me my problem, babe.
Somebody will come in there and say, "Oh, here's how we'll finish it," and I'll be like, "Sounds great." She's like, no, I don't like the way that. I'm like, what does it matter? And this could be the cabinets, it's like, our poor fireplace that the guys kept having to tear down over, like stones, all those.
Stone,
and Corey walking like, nope, that is not how and I went, Corey, it's close enough. Like, come on, like the poor, these two guys, the bricklayers, are like, oh my gosh, she's coming back here. It's like, tear it down, let's do it again. And so
you're
really,
relationally, like you're thinking through relationally with these guys, like how mad they would be, right?
Yes,
to
I'm
rebuild
like,
it, and you're like, just let it go. And she's like, nope, this is
she's
what
like,
I
I
wanted.
gotta look at this fireplace for the next however many years.
I did give them a picture, and like I couldn't have been more clear, and they just didn't do it right. So
Right. Yeah. That's
so
how it
we'll
goes.
do things like so we have so I'm like, okay, like I have a little piece of the attic of our attic, and I tell her, I'm like, this is my space. I'm gonna decorate it the way I want. I want the shelves the way I want it. Do not come in and be like, nope, this could be better. And so I do have that one space of the attic where it's like, I'm gonna hang stuff up everywhere. I'm gonna in the man cave
Do you have air
too, to a
conditioning
certain
up there?
like
to a certain
he's got
extent.
the one space. The
To a certain
kitchen is
extent.
all yours. The man cave is all yours. The attic is all yours. There's not.
No, we have
The
to
farm.
negotiate
Hey,
on the
the
kitchen. We
farm
negotiate
is-
on the kitchen. We negotiate on the kitchen. So
I've seen your animals at your
You say- thank
farmhouse
you,
too, man.
thank you,
That is
yes.
scary. When I walk in there and there's like a
you.
cheetah in a glass case.
Thank
You
you.
got
the
your
animals
stuff.
on the
Did not
wall.
approve
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So, okay, the last question, because this is next gen stuff. Because I do love that you guys have modeled this so beautifully, and the advice of like, let it unfold, don't try to have it all figured out today. Because life will throw you curveballs. And I sometimes want to go, that's a grace. Like that when we got married and we were so pumped that we had no idea, like the hardships that were going to come, like even with Cade being born 3 years later, like I'm glad we didn't know. I really love that God gives us the grace for the things that we don't see coming because he knows that when they do, he will sustain us. What would you say to two things to those who wait to get married because they want to kind of figure out their career thing first? And so once they map that out, then they want to wait and delay marriage because I know you guys were married young and you have some kids that are married at all different ages. And then how are you, what would you say to kids that are getting married young and they do not know what they're doing? They're like hoping they can put like food on the table. What would you encourage them with as they find this rhythm of partnership?
I think anytime you get married, whether you're young, whether you're older, there's challenges to it. You're bringing two people from two totally different backgrounds to be unified as one. Like that's not easy. That's going to be a challenge no matter what. I do think that this kind of trend of like waiting till we have it all figured out is just a mistake. It's like a misnomer. It's just not
worldly.
It's not actually helpful at all. And I think a lot of people are seeing that. We're seeing, people with not having as many children because they wait too long and then they realize, oh, I'm past the point, And so I think that most people, if you ask someone later in their life, they're like, yeah, I wish I would have started younger. I wish I had more kids because that's what really the most important things of life is your family. And that's where you get your greatest blessing. It's not about work or your education or any of that. That's not where you get your fulfillment in life. That's not how we were created to get our fulfillment. And, the work is a part of our life, and it is. And there's calling and there's purpose and all of that in that. But what you're going to have whenever you're old and gray is your family and the people that you poured
beautiful.
into. So I think you should start as soon as possible. Don't wait.
Well, and I see so much worldliness in that, and when I say worldliness, I mean it's like we're trying to figure out. We want to have enough money, we want to have this, and then. But it's like the things of the world because we want stuff and all that. And I'm telling you, the older you get, the stuff doesn't matter. I mean, I'm dealing with both of my parents now who are not good, health wise, and even Alzheimer's, and you just realize what doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like all this stuff,
Yeah.
the how, and it's
Yeah.
gone. In fact,
Gone.
even mentally,
Fleeting.
it's gone.
Yeah.
It's literally gone. It's none of this stuff, all the stuff that, that probably you fight about and think about and want to get all set up. And I'll tell you who is there at this point. And because I have little grandkids who are tiny and then my parents, and you really just see this whole spectrum of life. You're like, wow, this is where, and in so many strange ways, it becomes so similar. Like my parents become like children, and it's like you're the parent, and then but you also have little kids. You see the neediness on both sides where they need that, and you start realizing what's really important. And I think a lot of the things that people are trying to, capture and have, and I'm going to have this set up, and I'm going to have this set up, and then you realize, man, at the end of the day, it's going to be really these relationships and your family. Because once you start down that path, well, then you start, you get away from. Korie and I live by the Bible, so you start getting away from that, going, well, let's just try this one out. Let's try this one out. Let's try this one out. Well, we just start trying out people, and they come into our lives, and then you start seeing the scars and the damage from all this. Perhaps a child comes along, and then they're not together. Then that's going to create a whole new set of problems. And so that, there is other ways, and not that God can't fix all that. And, damage can be, fixed, and you can go on and have a great relationship. For what worked for Korie and I was getting married young, learning to become partners at every level. We can go back to to fifth grade, but we can certainly go back to when we got married and had to figure that out and the struggles and, I mean, what a great partnership now because I know what she was like at 20. I know where she changed and where she grew, and she knows the same with me. We know each other's vulnerabilities, weaknesses, but also strengths, and have seen each other, grow and become better people, which is where we want to be. And my big advice is, for Korie and I, what we did know and what we had, what was very important for who I married, and the same way with her was these principles, these biblical principles of love, forgiveness, repentance. I mean, these were the core things. So no matter where your job was or how much money we made, we didn't make money. We report points. We were had more money at points. We were even famous at points and all this. Those things are that's rooted, and those things are the things that have saved the day. Well, to save the day is not Korie, and she just happened to, be a good person, or Willie was a good person, a strong person. There were times in our marriage when we just had to cling to these big, overreaching ideas of repentance, love, forgiveness, the fruits of the Spirit, the 1 Corinthians 13, the whole aspects of love that Paul writes about, and ironically enough, those were the vows that we made. Those are literally what we said to each other. And so you have to dig deep and remember, those were the vows. That was what this partnership was built on. Because I've had so many partnerships in business that failed miserably. I mean, my father, her dad told me early on, like, the number one rule in business with partners is don't have a partner. And because so many of them fail and what you thought it was based on, and then, you can even have a contract. You're like, we have a contract. Pfft, you might as well tear it up because, when that's not going right, and even if you have a contract, it doesn't matter. You're like, I'm not working with this guy, and I don't have to, and you're going to get out of that. And I always tell people, these youngsters in business, I'm like, it's easy getting into these things because my guys will come and be like, we got the best deal ever. And I'm like, it's so easy to get in. I said, it's really hard to get out. And when you get out, and then it just gets messy and ugly. And so that's it's the same way with relationships. I mean, you have to realize what this is based on, where we at here, and then you just have to cling to those. When the car crashes, you have to cling to those things. And hopefully that can push you over.
Well, we love you guys and appreciate the way that you not only have lived your life and the many years of marriage and family, but you've been willing to let the world in to see this and to give them a bit of an imagination for what does it look like for a family to follow God, to live in a life of forgiveness, fun, play, rhythm, and family. And I know you're currently you're taping the new series that's Duck Dynasty, the Revival. Give us a little taste of what's coming and what people can look forward to seeing.
Speaking of, when the show was being talked about, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know if I want to do another TV show. I had my life kind of where I liked it and wanted it, and because I assumed Gabe would probably be playing golf in Palm Springs at some time, and I'd want to go, and I didn't want to have to say I have to work, and so I was really like, because I know what it takes, to do that. So I was a little more apprehensive, and but
there was a point where he's scared. So it's interesting. We started talking about whether or not we should do another show, and initially all of our kids were like, "Yeah, I'm in. We want to do it," and we were like, "Wow." I guess we didn't ruin you whenever we put you on reality TV as teenagers, because you want to do this again. And so we had lots of family meetings about it. Like, what's our mission? What's our why? What's our purpose? And how do we do this well? And how do we, just all of those things. And one of them, Willie, maybe you were in just at one of those, I want to go to Palm Springs and golf. And he was like, he scared them all to death about how hard it was going to be. And it is. It's hard work,
It's hard.
It is. It's a lot of work, but it's such a gift that we get to do it together. I mean, whenever you see it, you'll see. It's just our grandkids are such a part of it. So this is Duck Dynasty, the Revival, which A&E came up with that name, which we thought was so fun that it's called the Revival.
Yeah.
But because of all the implications of that, but it is generational living, just kind of showing people that like what that looks like, and it's us, it's Phil and Kay now are older and in a different space, and so Willie and I are the grandparents now, and our kids, and then their kids, and just see a family that is not perfect, that lives together and does life together, and our family is built on faith and love, and we just try to kind of live that way as authentically as possible with cameras that follow us around. And we get to have a lot of fun doing it. We, Willie and I just were on a little trip in Puerto Rico, and the cameras followed us, and we did all kinds of fun things together. And it feels like
awesome.
we talked about, we were like, this is pretty cool. We get to work together and play together. And we feel like it's a real gift. And hopefully our show, as people watch it, it is a light, and it puts out the aroma of Christ, and it draws people to Him. And as people see us, they don't see us, but they see Christ in us, and that's our goal.
Yeah, and I
It's
think
beautiful.
I mean, making TV is hard, and it's making successful TV especially. And but we realize, I realized the impact that it had on a lot of people, and not as much for entertainment or money. It's more like the impact that it had, where people are literally watching, going, wow, this is helping me, or I'm learning something, or at least there's something, some light out there that I'm not seeing for sure. And knowing that, and knowing how many people have just been touched by it, and then what can be built off of that, especially for our children. I remember when I went to my dad about the original show, he was like, "Nah, I'm not interested. I'm not doing it." And I was like, "Well, I think we can get the gospel out to more people." And he literally just looked at me and said, "You think so?" And he gave me the thumbs up and was like, "If it can get the gospel out," because knowing he didn't want to do it, but it puts you back in the spotlight, which I was enjoying, kind of not being in the spotlight as much. And it puts you back out there. You got to get back in and kind of stretch those muscles again, and battle and fight. And but I didn't. I think I'm so glad that we did do it, and we're back in. And who knows whether or not people watch it, it'll be as successful. But I can already see, like, even you can see our family even coming closer, because now we have to work on this project together, which is really cool.
Beautiful.
It's cool when you're having to, all the way down to my grandkids. Like, and for some reason, I keep getting pitched with, I'm with the grandkids all the time. And so, and they're little tiny. Somebody said the other day, was this show scripted? I said, well, I'm working with 3-year-olds. You think you can script that? So that is my co-cast. But
I love it.
and you're depending on them. You're like, oh, I got to get through, Sadie's kids or John Lee's kids. We got to get through this scene together. And it's really fun. I think it'll be memories for us, just selfishly, that you'll never forget. That probably never would have happened, what I'm saying, because we all are busy and have our jobs. And so, and we get to have it very professionally recorded, so we can always go back and watch it.
You've got your home videos
which is interesting. So, yeah, that's what, and we'll see what God's going to do with that or whatever. And I am excited about your book. I will say, when we first came on, I thought that was a box of cereal.
You can
That's
eat
what
it.
it looks. I thought you had like Fruity
like Fruit
Pebbles.
Loops.
I'm gonna have Korie stage it in your pantry. And
That's
see what happens.
Yes, I have read your book, and I gave Willie the Cliff Notes. That's how our relationship works. That's
I
through
love
college, everything. I did the reading, and I give him the Cliff Notes. So
There's got to be a guy
So
out there
good.
like me who Korie reads a book and she's like, "You have to read this book." We're probably on number 1,370 books that I have to read.
You have to
Yeah.
read.
I have to read.
Did you do the audio version?
Yes, we
Uh-huh.
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did.
You can listen to
Surely
it
you
like
did it
2.0
yourself.
speed.
Yes, we
2.0
did.
speed for
Yes,
you, Willie.
yeah.
You get through it
Perfect.
fast.
I will. I have.
There you
that's
go,
what
Audible.
I do.
I think
do
you'll
better
enjoy the
listening.
stories. There's a
There's
few
some
good
fun
ones in there.
stories.
Awesome. I will listen.
Well, I was thinking what you were sharing before we closed about like the show is again, I know it's costly to kind of have to go put yourself back out there, but what you're giving is a holy imagination for the things you guys are most passionate about that you just talked about for the last 45 minutes, which is family. And so you're giving a visual, like an imagination for people to see and dream and reconsider what would it look like to live in a generational way. For so long, people would just leave their families for career or college and not return home. And I think I know we've been impacted by being your friends. Like, we're trying to figure out, like, how will we want all our kids close and we want grandkids close. Now, I know the Lord knows more than we do, but that can at least be a desire that's expressed, that's pursued, that's made a priority. That generational living is what God blessed, in the old covenant, like just father of many nations and generational line that follows you that fears the Lord. Those are the things that are lasting. So the chance to put that on screen, to give someone even a visual or a picture of something that really does hit that deeper lasting longing, kudos to you guys. I'm excited for that. If nothing more, that people have a holy imagination again for family. That's everything. So thank you for doing that. We're going to close. We love you guys. Thank you for doing this.
We love y'all.
We could go on
Love you
forever,
guys.
and I'm sure
We
you guys
could.
will continue over a game of golf. But anyways, we're thankful for you guys. We love you.
We feel the
Awesome.
same
Love
way
you
about
guys.
y'all. Thank you for just everything you do. You encourage us and inspire us, and we've learned a lot from y'all as well. So we love y'all.
See you
Thank
soon.
you guys. So, what was your favorite part?
I mean, it's kind of fun hearing Willie and Korie talk about all their big ideas,
I know.
that he has, and she's shutting them down, or then she has to go do all the ideas he has. That's so his personality.
know.
I remember when he had a restaurant, he had like a barbecue sauce. I mean, this
did.
guy is forever an entrepreneur.
He did. He's a serial entrepreneur. And she's like, he has great things, and then I have to finish them. And I was like laughing about that because you, out of the two of us, are an ideator.
Yeah, I was
Like,
thinking you probably feel that.
Oh, you have so many ideas. Even with this book, like you had all these great ideas to start each chapter. And then you're like, oh, I got another idea for the next chapter. And then all of a sudden, like I'm staring at the chapter being like, okay, well, we still need to finish this other chapter that
Right.
you had an idea about. But
Right.
it is kind of fun to have that balance, right? Because you are an activator. You just decide something and you're already texting. If we have a conversation about something, you start texting someone
You gotta get it
immediately.
going. There's no reason to
about
wait.
starting the ball rolling. I'm like, are you already texting that person? Can we still make sure we even want to do this? Which is why not every idea sticks, but I just love the collaboration of it.
Yeah, well, they're fun. And if you didn't watch it on YouTube, go to Rebekah's YouTube channel and you can watch that now. And I also want to encourage you, if you haven't gotten the Fight for Us, go order that today. Be part of that first week. It really helps the momentum grow. It helps people start having a conversation about marriage and to recognize that there's another resource that's talking vulnerably about how to navigate marriage in today's climate. So go do that and then go to RebekahLyons.com/marriage. Claim these free gifts. Get the Fighting for Your Marriage Masterclass. Get the Emotional Health for Marriages mini course. You'll be stacked with not only the book, but some ways to engage your spouse. Maybe your spouse doesn't like to read, or you're going, I don't know how we're going to engage these conversations. For you, grabbing these videos might be the perfect way to just get a conversation going. And that's what Rebekah and I are emphasizing throughout this project, that if you're not talking, you're not healing. And so even the book's been designed with conversations for couples at the end of each chapter, 3 questions for you to sit there together over coffee. Maybe it's on a Saturday morning and you just find a moment to just start to take those first steps towards talking and healing. And so we hope you'll take advantage of that. And we look forward to continuing this conversation Monday and more episodes to come as we work through these 7 weeks of helping your marriage experience flourishing and healing.